Tonight's mission is really to empower you to propagate. It's pretty exciting how easy it is to propagate a lot of things. There are a bunch of different methods. Some I know more about, some I know less about. I never maintain that I know more than I do. So I'll give you lots of information on some things and point you in the right direction in other ways, you know. The first thing that I ever propagated that wasn't a tomato. I mean, how many people know that you can simply take suckers and stick them in the ground and they'll root? Okay, that's pretty empowering, you know, because some tomato plant seeds are incredibly expensive. You grow one big one early, and the rest are free to you. Now, if you sell them, you're breaking the law with some of them, you know. But just propagating them for yourself, you can do that all day long, you know. It's totally your right to do that. It's your material, you bought it, you know. So I'd done that a long time ago, you know. And literally, sometimes you can just stick one of those things in the ground, and they'll just grow. If the weather's right, you know. My favorite story is I brought a bunch to our Florida farm. We had meetings all weekend, and then Meredith, my coworker, found out that her butcher had the flu and we had to leave suddenly. And I brought a big bundle of suckers and I just left them there wilting. And somebody picked them up a day or two later and stuck them in the corner of the greenhouse, and they made a massive mix of tomatoes. They all lived and grew. You know, that's how easy it is to do if conditions are right, you know. And I'll talk about how to ensure those conditions are right. There's some ways to do that. But the first plant I ever started was from woody plant was from Peter Lauer's front yard, doing a tour with Blue Ridge Community College. I was taking some classes there then. And I said, I wonder if I could do a cutting from that. He said, try it. And it was a Woodgella. It was a red Woodgella. And I did 3 cuttings and every one of them took and I was hooked, you know. Success, I can do it, you know.
It's willow water?
I didn't use willow water for that. You know, I know about willow water. I have never used it. I just started some right now because I want to be able to actually talk about, you know, that you can use that, you know. So we'll get to that, but how many people know about it? I'd like to get an idea of what level I'm teaching to here. Are most people pretty novice at doing cuttings? Yeah. Starting cuttings and stuff? Okay. And divisions? Probably divisions a little bit more comfort with? Yeah. And then from shoots, from tubers and stuff like that, any experience there? Sweet potatoes is a classic, you know, probably a lot of people have done that. So there's a bunch that I can teach you, yeah. Okay, cool. So we're going to get to all that. Since then, I'd probably say that the next one that really opened up my eyes was blueberries. We had a tragic event for me at the Mountain Air Garden where I was the head gardener. We put in a blueberry patch. It was a very wet year. At the bottom of this hill where we planted it, we got Phytophthora cinnamomum, which is one of those really bad diseases that doesn't go away. And I learned from Kelly Ivers, at that time the pathologist at the research station here in Mills River, that we could still keep them alive and suppress the disease with wood chips. There isn't really any chemical that'll work, that'll kill it, but wood chips had 2 impacts, one of which the breaking down of the wood chips created a cellulase enzyme that inhibited the ability of the Phytophthora to actually fruit. It would eat off the fruiting bodies or something like that. And I forget I hope I'm remembering that, but something like that. There are 2 ways that wood chips worked. The problem was that the disease was still there. So that blueberry patch would be like Typhoid Mary. She may never have gotten sick, but she made a lot of New York City sick. And so the same kind of thing here. And of course, Mountain Air has, you know, lots of expensive perennials and all over in people's yards and stuff. And so I didn't want them to walk in the blueberry patch and then transfer it up to their places. So my solution was to pull out every blueberry. I pulled them out as they were going dormant. I couldn't stand to let them go, so I cut tons of wood from them and tried rooting them. Didn't know a thing about it. I just stuck them. I remember listening to a book on tape and sticking blueberries forever. And I had probably 1,000 starts. I ended up about 200 plants. When I thought I did pretty poorly. When I told some other people who were trying to start blueberries that I'd accomplished that, they wanted to come and see what I did. You know? And I think it was simply that I gave them more care than they did. They were hoping to stick them in the soil outside and get them to root. Whereas I did them in pots, put them on a table in a greenhouse and kept them watered. You know, actually I didn't put them on a table, I put them underneath the table because none of these things want full sun until they've developed roots, you know.
Did they have the disease?
No, the disease is in the roots. Yeah, that's why I took the wood. Yeah, no, I researched that thoroughly. There's no way that disease is in the roots, that's it, you know. It doesn't manifest in the wood, you know. So those blueberries were free blueberries to me, and I was very excited, you know. I haven't had as good a success in the past since I've done research and learned that bottom heat can really help with that. And as I was starting this willow tea. It's like, why didn't I use willow tea? You know. So I guess I've talked about willow tea enough now. I might as well.
What is willow?
Willow tea. Okay. I first learned about it in an article from the Texas Rose Rustlers. It was in one of those gardening magazines. It's about a bunch of women who are preserving heirloom roses in Texas, and they'd literally jump over a fence and take a cutting. You know, that's why they call themselves rustlers. You know, they are dedicated to preserving them, and if nobody was home, they wanted a piece. They figured that a little piece wouldn't hurt anything. They'd propagate it. You know, and I actually got to meet one of them years later at the Mountaineer Garden. It was fun. But what they did was they knew about rutone. Everybody knows about rutone, right? And you know that we can't use it in organic because it's got a fungicide in it, so it's not allowed for organic production. Yeah, not allowed for organic production. And so I've never used it, you know. But they decided that they wanted to do this organic. They would try the new growth from willows, which, how many people know that you can basically take a piece of willow, stick it in the ground, it'll grow, right? I mean, it's and so it's got loads of rooting hormones. By the way, I bet it would work with elderberry too, because you can take a piece of elderberry, stick it in the ground, and it'll grow, you know.
Well, tomatoes, if you can do the same thing you said.
Maybe, yeah. We could try other things. Willow's pretty easily available. If you don't have some, I can send you home with some starts, you know. But they basically discovered that it worked better. They then tried the rutone and decided it worked better than the rutone. You know? So
what did they do with these?
you basically just put it in warm water overnight, and then water with that water, you know. That's it, you know.
Root?
No, new growth.
Oh, okay.
New growth, you know. That's where the most hormones are. And so I try that with everything. I haven't, by the way. I'm making my first willow tea for you guys, you know. Just like, I never needed it. I was happy enough with the results I had. But I realized I should have tried it with things like blueberries where I wasn't happy with the results, you know. I just didn't remember that when I was doing those, you know. So I think we won't go more into that process now till we get down to the greenhouse. I'll show you what I've done, and we'll do a bunch. There's some things that everybody can take cutting home. You know, we got the wonderful lemon verbena plant down there, and I can send you all home with a cutting, you know. And then some other things that I don't have as many cuttings of. But we'll just do a bunch of cuttings, and then if the weather lets us, we'll go out and we'll do some divisions, you know. We'll look at divisions, and we'll talk about some other ones. Some things I was mentioning to Mark I don't really want to do because like the valerian can be divided, but it is in full flower right now. I'm not taking it away from the beneficial insects, you know, so we'll just talk about how to do those and stuff, okay? So we're gonna make a run for the greenhouse, okay? Okay, some things, this is, for those that don't know tomatoes, our neighbors are the Veterans Garden, John Massey and his wife. They've started a garden for veterans that are trying to readjust. It's a pretty wonderful place, and we grow, I don't know if you all know, but one of the things we do is we not only grow food for people, we grow plants for gardens that grow food for people, which multiplies what we do incredibly, you know. In fact, it was pretty thrilling to get a testimonial from the Black Mountain Community Garden. Basically, they said, you've closed our food gap by 2 months. You know, it used to be 4 months out of the year that they didn't have food for the hungry. Since they get plants from us now, which they used to have trouble with, it's now 2 months out of the year. So one of the things we do is grow seedlings. John didn't want to ask us. He felt like it was too much, and I finally encouraged him to do it. He asked late enough that I just wasn't going to make him wait for seed-started plants. These are Defiant tomato, which is one of the more blight-resistant ones. I just took suckers. I started them about 12 days ago, and he'll be planting them this week. You know, they'll be ready to go. I purposely put them in a small cell. If I put them in a big cell, they wouldn't be ready for a lot longer. You know, this time of year, you get this little thing in the ground, and you know what it's going to do. You know, it's going to just take off. If you were to go ahead and start it in a 4-inch pot, it'd be the end of June probably before you could put it out. You know.
Is that why they're so stocky?
They're
like so strong. They're not
so
like when you
strong.
start it by a seed.
Yeah, right. No, well, these also were pretty established plants, you know, and they also were right in the front door, so they're getting the wind from the fan. You all know about that. You know, if you're doing plants and you don't want them to get tall and leggy, brush your hand over them, or just brush your hand over them several times a day, and that makes them experience wind, and they make themselves stronger. You know, they don't want to be weak because they got to go out there in the world. You know.
The thing that my tomato plants did last year was they grew onto the lawn, and they grew little
Adventitious roots and weird themselves. Yeah,
so it's like, can you use those?
Oh, sure, most
Okay.
certainly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the roots are there for you already. You know?
Yeah, they look like it.
A lot of plants will do that kind of thing, and yes, you can do it. You know, you see adventitious roots, give them a chance. They're adventitious. They're taking advantage. Just get them out there and see what they do. You know, sometimes what you might want to do is make sure they root it really well before you cut them off. You know, and an example of that is blueberries will send off these kind of suckers, and they're not very well rooted. And if you go ahead and cut one before it's well rooted, then you may not get it to work. You have to baby it a lot more. If you let it root really well, and then go down there, dig down, and cut it off, then you've got a plant. You can dig it out and easily move it. Okay, so like I said, we've started many things. Some things we're going to try tonight is some Legella. I had to do that. I happen to have one, so in honor of my first plant. And then I got 2 blueberry pieces here. I hope I still have 2. Might have lost one already.
One just fell down there.
Okay, well, that's the Legella. No, anyway, we'll start at least 1 blueberry. And then for those who say they don't have willow, if you want willow, we can make a bunch of plants out of this guy. And if we don't make enough, anyways, these are waiting. All my coworkers like, I want a pussy willow. I want a pussy willow. So I brought them here, and they have to remember to put them in the ground. And be like, oh yeah, I'll get that. So it looks a little unhappy, but we can easily cut these, and they will root right away. All right, so some other things that I've done recently, and I'm going to demo some parts of this too. I wonder where the tarragon went. I guess it's still back there. One that's not from cuttings is tarragon. And I love that it's something I have here to show you because it's something to do with a lot of other perennials, which is you tease the roots apart, making sure that you have a growing tip on each piece of root, right? And for every piece that's got a little bit of green growth, you can take it if it's got any root at all and pot it up, depending on how much, and get another plant. So that means you can get many plants from a tarragon. We'll see how many we can get from that tarragon. We want a bunch of them, so we'll see how many we can make. But this one I did so I can show you that it works. This was, as soon as I got the plant. Every year I go to the Herb Fest, I buy plants we want, I always only buy 1. And I reproduce my own, Sometimes I don't have to reproduce my own. I think back here there's a flat. Yeah, this is where the tarragon is. I want to show everybody this. I'll pull it out this way so you can stay where you are, okay? Sometimes I just shop very carefully, and I don't have to reproduce much of anything. I bought 5 sages in 1 plant. Sage is one you can do cuttings from, but this is a lot faster. They had 5 of them in a pot. They wanted to be sure they took. They were all gorgeous, They all looked about this much area, actually. And I just separated them out and potted them up, and I had 5 sages. So that's a way to reproduce that is very, effective. I'll do that lots of times. Like I didn't start my parsley on time. It's a no-brainer. People all the time just throw a bunch of parsley seeds in a pot because they're not sure of germination. You can go tease those apart. I've gotten 24 plants out of one 4-inch parsley. And so that's something you can do definitely. But
could you do it with a biennial in its 2nd year, and what would it be? Would it be a biennial?
Well, parsley is a biennial.
Yeah.
So if you did it in its 2nd year, I think it'd probably just go to seed on you.
It would go to
Yeah,
seed.
yeah. You're not really changing it at all. If you established a cutting from a biennial, it'd probably go back to regrowing everything and starting over again. Though I wouldn't guarantee that. There's times when they're in a flower. I was telling Mark because he had I'm pretty sure a viburnum, and I said we could root that maybe, but it was in flower. And I said, sometimes it'll work, but sometimes plants that are in flower just want to do one thing. Yeah. And they will not put their energy in the roots, maybe with the tea, but it's not always as easy. Okay, so other ones that I reproduced from that I purchased, I already talked about the tarragon, and I'll demonstrate that in a little bit. Lavender, have you ever tried to start lavender from seed? Pretty frustrating, right?
It takes a long time.
Yeah, a long time, and not necessarily the germination that you want. Oftentimes 10% germination or 15% or less, It roots from cuttings incredibly easily. So we'll do some cuttings from this guy. I'll show you this. It's not a real quick one to root, and I see one that probably isn't happening, but the rest of these you can all look and see. I'll let you see first, but they're actually showing signs of growth, They actually have a little bit of growth in the center, and the other way I can tell that it's working is I give them a gentle tug and they don't pull out, So I know the roots are happening. Now, I just was sending off a stevia and was confident I had them all nicely rooted. And then I dropped the one I was doing. I think it's probably this one here. And I'll just show you again. I was way too optimistic. But my trick is I don't say that they're ready until I see significant new growth. When I see significant, and I see roots on the bottom, then I know it's really happened. I give it the time it needs. I'm not in a hurry. I'm pretty sure this is the one that I stuck back in, and I can show you. Yeah, It's got roots, but you can see not a lot, you know. If I were to stick this out in this kind of weather and it didn't rain a bunch, it could die before it made it, you know. And it might die on me now because I pulled it out of its thing twice. But it was for educational purposes, and we will make sure that your kind is replicated many times. Slug, yes. Yeah, slugs. Fortunately, they don't give us too much trouble. We got all kinds of solutions to them if they do.
And they are?
The main one is sluggo. Yeah, iron phosphate works like a charm, you know. But also beer, you know. Doesn't always work, you know, but it works pretty often, you know. I'm really tempted to tell remind me to tell you my favorite joke about beer and slugs, okay? Yeah. Okay, so other ones from the fair. This one here, these are growing already. These are so easy to do. Pineapple sage. You know, just take cuttings and boom, you know, they're on their way like that, you know. The stevia, not quite as fast. We're gonna have to wait a little bit. It'll probably be another few weeks before I'll put it out. But these guys are ready to put out, you know. Another one that is really easy that I brought down my partner's bush to share with you all. Everybody can have a cutting if they want. Does everybody know lemon verbena? Yeah, incredibly easy to root, you know.
Can I smell it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Pass it around. Make sure everybody gets a good smell. And that one's very easy to root. I started those a good while ago. They're definitely ready to go out. You know, I like to have them a lot of places because although it's not the very best insect repellent, it's darn good. You know, I rub it on my hands and just pat don't rub it on your skin because it's strong enough to irritate, you know. But if you rub it on your hands and then pat your hands wherever you are, you tend not to get bit there, you know.
Does that spend the winter in a heated greenhouse?
It did spend the winter in my unheated garage. I've ever gotten it to live outside if well mulched, but it's a very dicey prospect. I wouldn't count on it, you know. Likewise, Jeremy, my coworker, the 2 winters that were so mild, he had the pineapple sage over winter. The 2 cold winters, last year 1 shoot came up and barely made it, and then this year was it. It was done.
This year I had seedlings from mine from last year.
Yeah, they'll do seedlings too. Yeah, that's another way to reproduce is just watch under the plants you have, you know. Yes.
So cuttings, is there side shoots mostly, or I mean, it depends on how the plant.
Depends. We're going to do a few. I'm actually going to talk about what we have here, what they did, how they do, and then we're actually going to do some together. Okay? Yeah. Side shoots. You can ask any question always. Yes.
That verbena I brought.
Yeah.
So
If I burn them, I think it is.
If I burn them,
Yeah.
has some suckers going up the middle. There are suckers.
Suckers oftentimes are real easy to root. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
They are
I mean, now if that were a grafted tree,
right.
you wouldn't want to do that because the odds are real good it's coming from below the graft and you would not get what you wanted.
Yeah, but
you know?
it's not.
Unless you want a rootstock, you know.
Yeah.
And actually, is it not raining right now?
Nope.
Are y'all game for a brisk walk across the street? And then we'll come back and I'll show you a few more things and then we'll start doing some starts, okay? So this is how it's done. Saw off a branch and then it's almost like a meat cleaver. I bet you could use a meat cleaver. You set it here and you hammer it in and make a serious split, right? And then, not this kind of branch. This branch is way not dormant, but you get a dormant branch. I actually went a little bit too far on that side. This is not a good one, but I'm not going to take the time to. And basically what I've just done is expose the cambium in 2 places. It should be a little longer than this. I could try making it a little better here. Yeah, more like that. Now the cambium is exposed in 2 places, right? And there's cambium here too, right? So you put this in, this is called a wedge graft, you jam it into there, right? And then this is going to, because you have it held open by a wedge, when you pull it out, it's going to pinch it perfectly. And you try to jam it in so that this cambium is lined up with that cambium. And it's totally a crapshoot. I mean, you know, it's just how well do you get it in there. But Bob hit the jackpot with that guy, you know. That's booming. Both of those are really strong. And what he told me we were going to do, which I blew my mind, right? But it's interesting. He describes that people probably learn grafting because they would see branches rubbing together and they would start to grow together, you know, where the cambium was touching. And he said, what we'll do with this, I got to see this. I don't know how he's going to do it actually. If we're going to weave it together and make it into 1 branch. Once you weave it together, the wind is going to blow and stuff and it's going to grow into 1 strong branch, the 2 different pieces, you know. So the one that I did I got one to take. I'm tickled, and it is growing. Is back here, you know. It's not nearly as vigorous as that one. That one really hit it. This started off first and strong and then wilted, you know. And, you know, the process of grafting, they have this, you know, stuff you treat it with, and you want to look that up. Bob describes it, you know. And you have the tape, you tape it shut, and you really coat this all really well so it doesn't dry out. And then I learned something from Andrew Goodhart when I saw him at the co-op, right? I've been brushing the shoots, the shoots that come out, because when you cut a tree like this, it just tries to make new branches. I've been brushing them off of everyone. He said, don't do that, because I'm going to try cutting this and trying again. So they probably will make new shoots, and we wanted to make shoots so this part lives. So come next year, I can make a second cut and try again, you know. And once this is strong, we'll cut this down and do this one, you know. So this is how you turn a tree that you don't like what's on there into a tree that you like what's on there, you know. And this is the edible cherry there. This is the edible cherry, right? This is the ornamental. I'm unmoved, you know. I don't even like that. It's like a double flower. I'm not even a big fan of double flowers. I like simple flowers more. I think cherry blossoms are gorgeous, you know. I think it's quite ornamental, and I get to eat it too. I'll take that, you know. This is white gold. I'm wondering if Bob bred that because he's a cherry breeder, but it's supposedly a Queen Anne type, but not as big, and I love Queen Anne cherries, you know. So that's how that's done. Any questions?
You could do it with a wild cherry though, huh?
You could do it with a wild cherry. You would use, I'm pretty sure, sour cherries. Sour cherries and sweet cherries cannot be grown on the same stock. You know, but I have a friend who comes to a lot of our workshops, Will Schmidt, and he said he grafted tons of his wild cherries. You know,
They're so hardy.
they're just different genetics. You know, as far as you cannot put a sweet cherry. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's true. You want to look it up, but if Bob were here, he'd know in an instant. You know, but he is busy. Checking, I think it's 45,000 cherries. He's retired, but he's consulting with one of his graduate students on selecting cherries for low chill hours. He's in California. He does it twice a year. He's going to be in Chile when it's the equivalent of this time of year. The key thing to know is you get your scion wood, right? The wood you're going to put on when it's totally dormant. You have to do that. If you don't have your dormant wood and you try and put wood that's already breaking, it's not going to be able to keep up. It's not going to be able to get connected in time to live. You know, Bob sent off to New York State to get a friend to send us a scion wood because it was too late down here. You know,
But you can refrigerate it, or
you can get it and refrigerate it, and you'll be fine. Yeah. So you get it in the dead of winter, and then you do it right as it's budding out. You know, right when it's just where you want it to be as far as growing. You know, pretty fun, pretty amazing. Easier than the bud graft. I don't know if the buds are the right shape for me to show you right now, but I'll quickly just describe. And we have a great video about that. I got to look for a bud. And see, that's it. We don't know if we have the buds at the right place. Basically, with a bud graft, you're taking, let's pretend this was a bud right here, and you're slicing it off, right? And then you're going to another site, right, on the tree that you want to graft it to, and you're making a slit and a slit. And you're slicing this off so it's kind of got a little point on the end, and you're sliding it into that slit and taping it on. It's as simple as that. There's a great video where we all do it, and Bob shows in great detail. You know, he's a wonderful teacher. He's going to teach chip grafting in August. I highly recommend that workshop. He's a great teacher. Getting these grafting skills is thrilling, you know, because we can take control of what's in our yard and reproduce our own plants. We can go get Bradford pears, get you know, cuttings from Bob's many fire blight resistant pears, and make our own pears. You know, this is a powerful way to reproduce, to propagate. Any questions on that? Don't ask me too many because I don't know too much. But I feel empowered. I did a successful chip graft, and I did a successful wedge graft. I'm ready to go. You know, all I need is some time. You know, I got it. Okay, so we can just look up at the bay up there. See the bay on the porch? That's one that I should use willow water on, or another technique that I should try that we're not going to have time to do tonight. But do you all know about taking a soda bottle and splitting it in half and filling it with peat, and then taking a branch like on something like that and scraping the bark, and maybe scraping the bark right by some buds and stuff, and just putting that soda bottle around it and tying it on and keeping it moist, and it'll oftentimes make roots. You know. Another thing, of course, I didn't even think to tell you, but I'm glad I'm remembering it now, is you can take a branch, a low branch on one of those guys, simply get it down on the ground, pin it down, scrape it a little bit, and let it start making roots, you know, layering it. Yeah.
Dip it underground.
Yeah.
I've done that with fig trees
Yeah,
too.
right. Fig trees,
Hydrangea does it.
Yeah.
fig trees, I'm going to get them out of the way right now because they're so easy. fig trees, dormant wood, and grape, right? Simply get yourself some heavy soil, right? You want heavy soil so you don't have to water it too much. That's the reason, okay? Because it's going to take months and months, maybe 6 months, right? Cut up your dormant pieces of wood. Make sure there's at least a few buds that are going below the ground, because at the bud site is where there are stem cells that can be roots, leaves, or stems. And simply jam them in firmly and keep them wet. Not wet, just moist. And we probably did 30 or 40 pieces 2 years ago, because we had to get the fig was starting to poke out the greenhouse. And we probably got 25 to 35 to take. It's that easy. You don't do it, you leave them alone, you just let them go for months and months, and finally you see a sprout of green. You know, if you got a whole bunch, you might wait till maybe half of them are sprouting. And then you separate them out very gently, because there's just little hairs like there were on that stevia. Pot them up in nice rich soil, and boom, they'll be fig trees in no time. Well, I use dormant wood. I think it can be, you can do it other ways with not, well, you can do the layering any time of year, you know. But we use dormant wood, and I usually wait till we're pruning, you know, till it's time to clean it up, you know. But figs and grapes are really, really easy that way. Likewise, elderberry. Just cut yourself the, I brought a piece of elderberry from my house. We'll do that. We'll send some people off with some elderberries. Really easy to get those guys to root, you know. Elderberry, I didn't bring dormant wood, but I've done it with dormant wood. I've done it with live wood, you know. It works either way. Okay? All right, so we beat the rain. We can go back inside, and it can do whatever it wants now. I'm quite happy for it to rain, you know. Any questions so far?
On the fig, could you use like the spring growth also?
You know, I'm pretty sure that you can't stop a fig from rooting, but I haven't done it, because winter's when I have time. I'm pruning anyways, you know. But I'm pretty sure, and also if you're worried about that, you could certainly layer it this time of year, you know. And Jeremy actually did the fig with the bottle, and he did it in the summer, and it worked fine. He did one where he didn't scrape the bark, one where he scraped the bark. It did not work with the one he didn't scrape the bark on. So that, you know that.
Could you describe that bottle technique
Okay,
again?
soda bottle, right?
Yeah, soda bottle.
Cut it in half on one side, leave it tight on the other so you can hinge it open.
So lengthwise?
Lengthwise, yep,
Okay.
yeah. You're gonna make a tube around the branch, right? Take off some leaves so that you're getting buds in there, and then scratch the bark around those buds and stuff, and then seal it up, you know. I use a green one because you don't want to cook those roots, you know. And then you let it sit there for a long time, you know. And you make sure it's moist, check it every once in a while. But it's sealed up, so it's not gonna lose a lot of water, you know. And I do it in a shady part, so it's not in the sun, you know. But his took just fine. The one that he scratched, the one that he didn't scratch didn't take. Personally, I don't think I'd bother with doing that for a fig. It's just too easy. I'm going to try it on the bay tree, you know. I might try it. I have a yuzu citrus up there. They're quite hardy, and the fruit is incredibly valuable. I mean, you can sell fruit for $6 to $10 or so a fruit, because they're still pretty rare. I might try that one too. I brought some pussy willows down from our neighbor who just was completely whacking this pussy willow back right in February when they're blossoming. And I gave everybody pussy willows, and then I stuck the branches in the ground, but it was dark, so I didn't see how I was sticking it in the ground. I stuck it in upside down. It's in upside down. You still can't stop it from growing, you know. Completely booming, you know. And by the way, an ode to willows as we walk back. They have extra floral nectaries. You all know what those are? They're sources of nectar that happen even when the plant's not in bloom. So they're feeding beneficial insects and pollinators when there's no blooms, right? They do that. Peonies are the famous one. They do it to feed ants, so they help to open the buds, right? So you see the ants on the buds. So they have extra floral nectaries. If you get a headache, right, you can make, you know, it's the equivalent of aspirin from the bark, right? They support both the endo and ectomycorrhizae. So they're the perfect tree to put your leaf mold under, because then your leaf mold will have the roots grow up in, and then the mycorrhizae will be in that leaf mold, and then of course they'll make spores. And if you get that mulch into a soil that's going to have roots, you'll have a free mycorrhizae inoculant, you know. And you can of course make baskets from some kinds. You can root them so easily. This is like one of the magic trees of the garden. You know, an ode to the willow. It's an incredible tree. The process I want to first tell you about that I've yet to try. I'm excited to try it for blueberries. They mention ornamentals for what it works for, but I'm hoping to work for blueberries. And I'm pretty sure the term is stooling though. Maybe it was stooping, because I read this article a few months ago. But basically, you take a plant like this. Oh, there's flowers. You can't have flowers on these. And you bury it. You bury it up to about there. And what happens is, at all the axials, it roots. Then you come in and you cut those off and you have new plants, You know? So get yourself a propagation book and read up on it. It sounds pretty easy. This is not the time to do it. You do it when they're dormant. You know, you wouldn't want to be making those leaves be buried. But it sounds incredibly easy, and I'm hoping it works for blueberries. Because right now, blueberries are a little dicey, you know? I'd rather have them be easier, you know? Okay, so that's one thing to do. And as long as we have this, this is a classic example of division. I'm not going to sting myself, so I won't actually do it. But incredibly easy. I mean, this is the kind of thing like oregano. Let me show you the oregano. And thyme, which we have back there, where you simply can reach in and snag out a piece. And as long as there's root on it, you have a plant, you know? I mean, there are incredibly tiny roots on these oreganos. But even this one here, which didn't look like it'd work, is starting to slowly grow. They're actually 2 little pieces. I stuck that in and thought, well, there's 1 little root, I'll give it a try, you know? So it's very easy to start a lot of plants that way, you know? And actually, does somebody really want stinging nettle? Nobody really, you don't want, you all know why you would want it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's the most incredible nutrition, the solution is to pick a place where you mow all the time, around it completely, you know, and then you can have it, you know. Okay, Lisa, well, I'll do one so that we can show people.
I'd rather just buy pounds of plants
Yeah.
every year.
Uh-huh.
Well, it's actually important to do like he's saying because they will pick up.
She's got a plant.
toxins.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That easy. Okay, so this here, right, this could very well not make it if you put it out like that, right? So what you do is you reduce the leaf surface a lot so that the roots have much less to support, right? And you'll see me doing that all night long, you know. I usually do it way less carefully than this one. This one here, I'm not going to grab the whole thing with my hand, you know. That might do it. I might look at this and see it unhappy tomorrow and take another 1/3 of the leaf surface away. You get the leaf surface proportional to the amount of roots, and then it does fine. And then the next thing you do is stick it in the shade. Stick it in the shade until it looks like it wants the sun, you know. I want to do show and tell first, then we're going to do propagation, okay? Show and tell is going to be much shorter now, though. Do you all know dahlias? Okay. You know dahlias basically make shoots from a tuber, right? Okay. You can actually force that tuber like you force sweet potatoes, and when the shoots come up, you can cut several off and root them. These were taken from a dahlia. They were nothing but the shoots. So we still have the original dahlia. It's one of those pots which is ready to go in the ground desperately, but we have 2 more clones, you know, that easy, you know. Thank you, Growing for Market newsletter. If you don't know that newsletter, if you know a farmer that gets it, ask if you can get their old copies. If you don't know a farmer that gets it, consider getting at least an online version, because although it is written for farmers, it is some of the most useful information, you know.
What's the title of that?
Growing for Market newsletter.
Growing for Market.
Yeah. It's been around since the late 80s, I think, and actually I've let my subscription slide right now, but I got it for years and years nonstop. It's why I get to teach classes. A big part of it. I learned tons of my stuff from there. Tons of every issue I would learn something from, and things like that, just a delight to me, because I love dahlias. They're expensive. I can buy one special one and make, I just did 2 because I was in a hurry. I could have forced that for a while and only left 1 shoot on it. It would have still made a great plant, and I could have gotten 5 or 6 or 7 dahlias from one.
I'm gonna go out and buy a dahlia.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah, sweet potatoes this year. Got about 24 plants from one sweet potato.
Yeah, okay, so the other thing to know, we buy sweet potatoes.
Yeah, they're expensive.
We order them from a farm on the coast, a biodynamic farm. They just go out and take cuttings.
Yeah.
They just take cuttings and stick them in water. By the time they get it to us, they're rooting. Yeah. And we start them that way. You don't even have to grow them off the sweet potato. They can just take it from the plant, you know. So there's many ways to propagate things like sweet potatoes, you know. Another classic one for division. You all know that you don't need water to grow watercress, right? Simply keep a moist bed and you can grow watercress anywhere, okay? I've ever just gone to the supermarket and bought some with the roots on it. You all see the little adventitious roots there? Easy to go. But we were at the herb fair and Diane said, let's just buy a plant. So I bought a plant, but I sure as heck couldn't just get 1 plant. I've given away 2 already and I have 3 left from 1 plant. I just divided them, you know. If I wanted more, of course, every one of these pieces with roots would grow, you know. So there's no excuse not to have watercress. If you don't want to buy any as you leave tonight, you can cut a piece off, get it in the water. You got your watercress, you know. I wouldn't waste any soil on it. I'll send you home and you can put it in your own soil, you know. But that easy to reproduce, okay? All right, so the first one I want to do is tarragon because that's the different thing. Then we're going to do a bunch of divisions. I mean, not divisions, cuttings. And then we'll see if there's time to go out and look at some other divisions, okay? All right, so what I'm going to simply do here is, sorry, tarragon. Had this class not been happening, I would have done this once right after the herb fair. But I saved this so I can show you, right? And then, so how many can I get from this? You know, I hate to lose those roots, but to do this process, you have to, right? These are the roots you're looking. These are the ones that are going to be able to propagate. Okay, does everybody see that? Do you see that, Joe? The bigger roots. These little roots aren't going to do you anything, right?
Okay.
And then I kind of just go, see the bigger roots?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And there's many more in here. I'm not going to, if I were trying to get the maximum, I might take every last bit of soil off, but that's kind of cruel to it. I just want to show you the process right now, so I'm just going to go for one division probably. But I probably could get, I'm guessing I could get 3 out of this.
Can you wash this? Just wash this?
You can wash it off, yeah. Yeah, you can wash it off, yeah. And I can kind of feel this where I'm hoping it's going to work. Sometimes it doesn't. It's really frustrating when it doesn't work. Okay, I got one there. That's a nice one. And those are barely big enough, but they're going to work, you know. And what I would do is take this one, put it in the same pot so it's got a mother, and eventually take it off of there, you know. So I've got 2 there, you know. And then this guy here, once again, I might bury that and see if it would root too. But there's one that's certain, and we're going to pot these up as we go because I don't want to end up without tarragon. I want lots of it.
So let me clarify. You mentioned earlier about conditions. Propagation has to kind of do with success in propagation has to do with watching the conditions, right?
I almost always do it in a pot. Yeah. I mean, I'm just not willing to have to baby stuff that much outside. Here I can stick it under a table, let it recover, you know? Yeah. Now, if you're trying to do tons, then you're a gambler and you do shade cloth and have...
So that's what you mean by conditions.
Yeah. Reduce the sun, reduce the leaf surface. On these, I know I'll reduce the leaf surface some. I'll have some tarragon to take home and put in a dressing, you know? So this is a great pot, Joe. Good choice, because it gives me some room to try and root these 2 separately, right? Rather than jamming these both together so they wouldn't come apart, I'm going to slide the one over on that side and the one over on this side. And then eventually I'll be able to go in here and cut this one free and get 2 plants from the same one, you know? And so I use the spent potting soil there, but on top, since I don't want it to pull a lot of weeds out, I'll get a lot less this way. I'll firm it up. And now, I know this guy's going to be fine. It's got more root than it has top, so I'm not worried about it. But this is going to wilt on me, you know? So what I'm going to do is simply drastically cut it back. And that's not even enough. I want to keep these fairly clean because I actually want to use them. I'm going to also just cut a lot of the leaf back. You know, I took a lot of the top right off, but now I'm going to make it so that these long leaves are not nearly as long. I'm going to give it quite a haircut. And that may seem cruel, but actually it's crueler to ask the plant to support that top without the roots, you know. I'm pretty optimistic that that'll be good enough. Maybe I'll just get a couple more of these right here that I can easily get. And I'll get that guy there. Yeah, by cutting the leaf back, you make it a whole lot easier, you know. And yet there's still a place where it's a lot, you know, if you just take the top off, then it's got the density still, so it's hard for the sun to get in everywhere. Now I've given it a bunch of places where it can get a lot of sun, you know. Though right now it's not going to get any sun, it's going down below, you know, after we water it. You want to firm, you always, okay, everybody knows, firm very well, right? You do your plants no favor by not firming well, right? You see how much I'm firming? Capillary action, right? Those roots are in shock. They're not even going to be working at first. So by getting, so there's capillary action, the water's still moving through the soil and getting to where the root is. The root can't get to the water right now. It'll, you know, recover from the shock, you know. This is probably like being in a car accident for it, you know. But it'll recover, and when it recovers, it'll put its roots out and get water. Right now, you got to get the intravenous to it, so like firm it really well, okay? Yeah, that's critical. That's very critical, and it's a huge mistake that growers make. This is true with absolutely everything you plant. Seeds and plants outside, you'll get way more success if you firm well. My favorite way to get you to get it with seeds, plant a cover crop, you know, where you're not doing the farmer kind of thing using a cultipacker, and then walk through that field and see the first things that come up, your footsteps. Your footsteps will be the first thing to come up because it's been pushed in, gets the capillary action, gets to grow, you know? Okay. All right, so, yeah, this is a natural here. It wants to come off. So I got another one right there, you know? I'm not going to bother to try and make it do 2. I'm just going to do 1. Okay, so that's enough trimming for now. I'll come back and trim it more tomorrow if I need to. But you can see how I took a whole lot of that back, you know? Okay? And that's going to need to be watered. All right, so we've done, that's divisions, and if we have time, we'll go out, we'll do some more divisions. I've ever divided asparagus. It was like 15 years old. I knew it was going to be dying pretty soon. I went out, dug it up, and pulled off different crowns, and then planted them out again, and they were new plants. You know, what's out there? It's easy to do. Bergamot. You know, the valerian could be done. Of course, thyme, oregano, all those that root, very easy to do. Of course, the stinging nettle. There's tons of plants that if you can get if you get a top and a piece of root, and then you make sure that the amount of top matches the root, it's an easy one. You know, things like bergamot, you know, are also known as monarda, bee balm. I wouldn't even bother to put it in a pot inside. You know, it's just so tough. You know, I just cut it back good and stick it in and keep it watered, and boom, next thing you know, you got another patch. You know. So there's many, many of these you can do. Of course, comfrey, you all know about, talk about root divisions. Can't go wrong with that one, you know. I mean, you can go way wrong if you're not careful, but you'll have no trouble propagating it, that's for sure. You know. So that's the root divisions. Okay, so now what I want to do is let everybody do at least one cutting.
Can you cut this and just root it?
You know, I've never tried it, but you want to take a piece home and try it?
Yeah.
Okay, you can use some soil right now and try it, you know. Okay, so this is the first one that someone's going to try rooting. And but you have to get back to us and let us know if it worked, okay? All right. So what I would do now, I cut it down far enough that it was actually kind of woody. And then what I do next is I take off a bunch of leaves. So I pulled out a bunch of leaves. So those should be rooting sites, okay? Because they're right where there was a leaf. So they have the ability to make a leaf or a root or a stem, okay? And then we're going to get some soil, okay? And then I'm going to let you stick it in and firm it really well.
What? Trim it.
Yeah.
Trim it. Yes.
So do you want to trim it?
Sure. Like all the way down to there?
No. Just cut all the leaves in half.
All the leaves in half.
Cut all the leaves in half, right? Okay, so this probably worked too, though. You can try both. Try one of each if you want pussy willow, okay? This is a nice pussy willow. It's a shrub, okay? So anybody that wants to try that can try that, okay? I got some nice nippers here for cutting it up. All right. Also, by the way, I'm sure that we can find some suckers in some of the tomatoes that are planted out there if somebody wants to try a tomato, but it's really a no-brainer. You don't need to do that one, you know. I can probably spare maybe 1 or 2 cuttings from our stevia. Maybe two cuttings from the stevia. I can spare a few cuttings from pineapple sage. Obviously, anybody that wants to do lemon verbena, we have plenty, okay?
It smells good.
Blueberry, you know what? I don't have to show you a thing. I just showed you. It's the same. Okay? But then it's the care afterwards that matters. So yeah, it's exactly the same. You know, I would probably take leaves off to about there, you know, and then put it in. You want growth that is hardened up some. If it's totally soft, it's going to rot. Yeah, so go ahead and pass that around and feel it, you know. And you might also, for best practice, make a new cut on the bottom where it's already been sealing, so it can take water up that way right away. You know about that? You do a cut flowers, right? Same thing. You want to make a new cut so it's not, because it's, as soon as you cut it, it's starting to seal up and heal over.
I thought that's what one of the things in the willow was the salicylic acid works as like an antimicrobial for the.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it does. Yeah, but it's more than that. It also.
Oh, and the hormones,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. It's also, you know, it's one of the ways to induce systemic plant resistance is just to give it salicylic acid. So there's many things. It's one of the, you know, the pharmaceutical companies think that they're real smart, but they learned it all from plants. You know, it's all from plants. You know? So there's this. There's the lemon verbena. Oh, sage. I don't know that any of this is going to be hard enough to do yet. You know, so I'm not sure we can do that. But I think there might be, like, you know, how many people wish they had a sage? Okay, so nobody needs a sage? Great. Because what I would do here, the one that would work, and if somebody decides they do, if you look in here, that one there has got a pretty woody stem. I think I could cut that one out. Let's just do it. Well, no, you want not. It's not way woody, and I'm actually gonna plant it into the but I want it to be hard enough that it's not gonna rot.
Yeah, I never knew that. I thought you wanted the softest spring growth.
Now the softest spring growth usually didn't yours rot a lot?
No wonder I can't do it.
Yeah.
I've been trying to do an azalea for years.
Azaleas are real hard to do, by the way, too. Native azaleas?
No, I bought it somewhere, and it's in Vermont, and it smells. It's like beautiful,
okay.
bright color.
Because I know the native azaleas, a lot of the people who reproduce them from seed because they're hard to do from cuttings.
Oh, okay.
But I've heard that it's not as hard.
So bad.
I've heard it's not as hard with the other cultivars, though. So I'd give it a try now that you know.
I sold the house.
Oh.
Finally.
See if you can go back.
About
Ask them if you can go back and get a cutting.
Yeah, right.
How many people are going to care if you get a cutting? They'll look at you like you're weird, right?
We're right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. They already think that, right? Of course, yeah. That's why you're here, right? Join the weird class, you know, right? We specialize in weird. Okay, so I'm going to do one just to show. And I'm optimistic. I think I'll get this guy to work. Just barely, because there's not a lot of stem that I can use. But I think it'll work. I don't want to waste these leaves.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you dry those.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And everybody, you know, I think you should all regularly make cuttings of sage, because what happens to sage around here?
Sort of goes up.
It turns black and dies, right? Yeah, you know, I mean, so the solution is to keep making cuttings so you always have plants, you know? And just, you know, if you get 3 years out of it, I think you're doing good usually, right?
What do you call those points when you take off the leaf?
Well,
You
they're...
call them the growing
Well,
points? or-
well, I mean, they're the wounds from where you remove the leaf, but it's where there are stem cells,
Okay.
okay? It's a site of potentiality, you know?
I know. I've got
Okay.
some stuff outside
So-
coming up in the other celery.
I guess I'm going to go for this soil first because we're going to have very little of the made soil, and I do not want to take the time to make soil right now. I've had pretty much 95% take on sage. If I,
figure it'll help the plant feel less pain.
oh yeah, totally do it, absolutely. I mean, use the heck out of the willow water. It's a great thing, you know. Okay, so I said how much I cut it. I want to find a similar thing. Let's say this here is a similar branch, right? So I gather up these leaves. That's all that's left. I cut 2/3 of it off. Just cut it down by 2/3. And then that's not so much leaf that it can't support it. Okay? All right, so the other one, rosemary is one of the ones that's, my friend Wade at Troy's greenhouse, just every year he'd talk about how bad the germination was. I had a huge shrub in my greenhouse till the plastic got blown off. And one year I just brought him like an armful of cuttings. And he just was, it was magic. He got himself a mother plant going. He never had to suffer again, you know? Plus you can reproduce, that one's a really resistant one, you know?
I did about 30 this spring. I only have 3 in the garden now.
So only 3 took?
Yeah.
It might have
Wait
been,
long enough for it to root, and I put them out.
there you go. That'll do it. That's the problem, yeah. So if you want one of these, you're probably gonna take it from the other plant because this one here has been cut pretty hard, but I'm gonna take one cutting from here. Who's got, oh, I got a knife here. Did you cut your sage already?
Yes.
Great, okay. Excellent. Looks good. So that's what it looks like when cut. Got it? Okay. All right. So I think there's a branch here that I would do. This one's real easy. They come off real easy. Just do that.
You do shorter pieces than that?
You know, you can. I don't think you need to. I mean, if you don't have much plant, you can.
See, when I do the shorter ones, it's not too woody, so I need to do it longer.
There's nothing
like
woody
you
about
said.
this. This is
Well,
fine,
it's
yeah.
much woodier than mine.
Yeah. This is fine, you know. This is going to work fine. I mean, famous last words, this one probably won't take now, but they usually do, you know. I mean, you know. I am subject to Murphy's Law as well as anybody else, you know. Murphy does rule. I always acknowledge it, you know. So, anybody want to do this one? And you can do it and take it with you if you want.
I'll do it.
Okay.
It's hardy.
I think we only buy ones that are pretty hardy. You know, that's our mode. You know, I ask for the hardy ones.
Put the willow water.
None of them are really hardy. They're all anywhere from half to 3/4 hardy. Do that big stone. And so on this one here, I'll show on another thing while she's working on the planting part. I would just only cut leaf. I wouldn't try and cut the leaf down. I'd let every leaf stay, but I'd try and cut as much off of, at least half off of a bunch of the leaves. Not the smaller tip, but just cut the leaves down a little bit, you know. Lemon verbena, I'm not even going to bother to do one. I'm just going to show you. I do the same thing I did with the blueberry. You know, you knock leaves off. I would get down up here. I think that's a little soft. I'd be down to at least like right there. Okay, feel the difference? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know. So you want it to be a little woody, and then cut a lot of leaf off. Take it home. It smells great.
How big
But
does this get?
I want some of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Not mine.
I'll take some of that.
well, no, you can trim it totally. You can totally control it. You can keep it this big if you want. You should definitely have one.
Make some
Does it have to
plants
stay inside though, did you say, in the winter?
In the winter, you can mulch the heck out of it. It'll probably live. I mean, really, really mulch it. Wait till it's going dormant, and then just cover it big time. You know, and you'll probably keep it alive. You know. Okay, so what I want people to do is to decide 1 or 2 plants. Okay, I'm going to get some pots. You're going to first fill it up pretty far with the spent soil, top it off with the new soil, okay? And then, anybody got any questions? Anybody feel that they couldn't make a cutting? Here's pots, people. Decide what you want to propagate. 1 or 2. Let's try and do it quick and see if we can sneak outside.
Elderberry outside? Is that where's the elderberry?
Elderberry, I brought some. I'll get it for you. Does anybody want to do Woodgella? Anybody into ornamentals? It's a really nice shrub that makes really deep-throated, pretty flowers in the late spring.
And how big does that get?
You can once again control it, but it can get like
And it likes
full sun.
full sun.
Yeah.
Everything likes full sun.
Yeah, well, let's see. What do I have here that doesn't like full sun? This is mint family. Mint family doesn't need full sun. You know, that's pineapple sage. You ever grown pineapple sage?
Yes, but what do you do with it?
You can make teas out of it. You watch the hummingbirds feed on it.
Yeah. Oh, there
What
you
else
go.
do you need?
For the hummingbirds?
Yeah.
Money plant.
Okay, so here's your nippers. Here's that.
Okay.
There's a nice sized pot for those, okay? For the people that want elderberry.
Oh, that's elderberry?
That's elderberry, yeah. Yeah.
So you said take part of the stick,
Part of the stick, but make sure that you're getting, look and see.
the nut nibs.
Yeah. Yeah. See, there's plenty of bud sites there. You're going to be fine, you know?
So like right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, cut it there. Yeah. And then cut a piece there and then cut these guys off.
So,
Yeah. No, I cut a little further down on that. Yeah. And then I cut there again,
Okay.
you know. Go ahead. And then I would say take these leaves off, cut that about there because they should regrow from, I believe maybe leave that on. Take these off and so you can have, this is a plant, that's a plant, this is a plant, you know.
Okay.
And then there should be more from the rest of it, you know.
I like one.
Yeah, okay, well, just go ahead and go for it. If they don't work, by the way, give me a call. I'll cut some more elderberry branches and give them to you, you know. There was a great elderberry talk at Mother Earth News. I discussed it on, what was the show, about how many weeks ago? About 3 weeks ago I talked about it on our radio show. You can go back to the archives. Tons of information about how to grow elderberries. I highly recommend it.
So how's this? Hey, do you cut the tips off all the time?
I cut the leaf back. It's not the tips. It's to reduce the leaf surface. This had no
so
real
you don't
effect.
have to cut the tip off.
No, I wouldn't have cut the tip off.
Oh,
Yeah, but it'll be okay. It'll shoot from the side, you know. Which one is this now?
the willow?
Willow, okay, yeah. You can't hurt willow. But see, I take all these leaves back by half, you know, just to make it easier. And then, remember, firm well, water, put in the shade. Make willow tea, give it willow tea.
Is this a native elderberry or a special one?
It's Chuck Marsh's, one of Chuck Marsh's cultivars. It might be, he selected one from the wild and he had other ones he bought. And I lost the label, so I'm not sure which was which. But it's a good one, you know. It's one that, you know, they're all good, of course, you know. And by the way, a tip. I used to try and find virus-free stock until I talked to an elderberry grower. You want the ones that have the virus, and that's why they're more medicinal. Because they're fighting the virus. Yeah. So you don't try to keep the viruses off of the elderberries, you know. Yeah, yeah. You can all see, these are the figs I talked about, folks. They were done last, not this winter, but last winter, you know. Like cohosh, yeah. I've done it from the root.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's what I've done.
Yeah, right, divisions,
But
yeah.
can you do it every year, or should you wait?
I'd
every
let it
other
build
year?
up ahead of steam. I wouldn't
Like
do it,
every-
yeah.
every
yeah,
other year or so.
Yeah, yeah. I give it ahead of steam, you know. Oh, that's a prop. He mentioned black cohosh, and that made me think about the spring ephemerals, and one of the all-time mountain spring ephemerals is ramps, right? One thing to do with ramps, I encourage like growing your own ramps and not buying the ones on the roadside. I'm sorry to affect that business, but because we really are reaching a point where there's too many ramps being taken out of the woods. And not only the ramps come out, but you're doing a lot of damage usually when they're being taken out to other things, orchids and stuff like that. So what I recommend though, if you choose to buy those, is don't cook the entire bulb. Leave a little bit of growth on the bulb and the roots and pot them up and you'll probably grow a plant. So then you can have your own ramp plants, you know. The sustainable harvesters, I noticed the co-op was selling those kind, they don't cut the root. They go down, get a lot of the bulb, but leave some of it in the ground. And then it comes back, you know. Any questions? Is there anything you hoped I'd cover that I didn't cover? If it was more time and it wasn't raining, we might go out and find some other plants to divide. But really, what I showed you with the stinging nettle, it's pretty true for all those things. The clump like that, just snag a piece with a top and some root. Depending on how much root you got, tells you how much care you got to give it, how much top you got to take off. I mean, frankly, that one piece of stinging nettle with lots of root, probably don't have to take anything off that, you know? It'll probably just take off.
And that one you gotta take a lot off.
That'll take a lot off, yeah, you know? That's about it.
Not much there.
Yeah, well, that's okay. It's still proportional to how much root there is, there's a lot, you know? So you just cut it way back, you know?
Is it the acid that stings?
It's is it formic or whatever? The same one that's in ants. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, formic acid.
Formic acid. That's it.
Yeah.
Formic. Yeah. And you know, it washes off pretty well. It's just not that bad a thing. By the way,
It gets your attention.
if you're not into using apitherapy because you can't stand the thought of being stung by a bee and you have aches and pains that would benefit from natural release of cortisone, brush yourself with stinging nettle where you have the aches and pains. Yeah.
No, thank you.
Well, it depends on how much you're hurting, right? If you got bad arthritis, you might say, sure, I'll take a little bit of pain.
Yeah, I used to have that. Maybe I would have tried it.
Yeah, right, yeah, you know.
You call it urticate, right?
Yep, urticate, yep, yep.
You'll say, oh, that hurt, like you're not in enough pain yet. You'll do anything.
Yeah, if you don't have the pain, you don't need to do it, right? That's it. All right, well, if there are no questions, that is the class. Everybody get some plants to take home?
Yes.
Keep them in the shade, keep them watered. Let me know if they don't work. Come on back and get some more. We'll try again.
What's the ground cover package?
Oh, right, I forgot to tell people. Thank you. We had David Brandt here and his son Jay, and they sell very special cover crop mixes, and they sold most of them. I said, Jay, leave them. Why haul them back? I'll offer them to people. I'm not at all invested in your buying them, but if you want a specialty cover crop mix from a guy who knows his cover crops inside out, they're $7 a bag, and there's all kinds of literature. Anybody that wants it, talk to Kate. She'll take your money, and you got them, you know. Check them out.
I took that cover crop class and what the interseed.
Intersong, yeah. That's
And,
we're off topic
it's already
now.
up, coming up. And
Yeah.
doing real
You
well.
can sow cover crops underneath your plants as they get taller. People that have little gardens don't think they can sow cover crops. You can, you know, and that's what these are good for.
Eat up the nutrients that the plant.
You wait till every plant's big enough, it'll dominate. You're in charge, you know. Don't let it dominate, you know.
I have little raised beds, and so
There's no room to plant.
everything is pretty
Okay, so you know what?
close.
Things that are close but are going to come out, sow right before they come out. If you're not going to plant something right away, you know. Do you get your cover crops in the fall, or do you have things going so late you don't get them in?
No, get them in.
Okay, so we know what? That's when to sow. You sow these now, as you know the other ones are going to die. You don't wait, right? Because right now why you don't get them in probably is because you still have your plants in, and then it's too late.
Right.
So you can go out there and sow under your tomatoes, under your peppers, under your, all those things, you know. You can sow under your broccoli a little later. All those things will grow. You know, you want those cover crops. Those are your free solar engine feeding your soil. Have you been to any talks where I tell you the piece of information I got from Dr. Elaine Ingham that changed everything about how I grow?
No.
Okay. 50 to 80% of what plants photosynthesize, they put below the soil. 30 to 50% of that, the plants exude to feed their microbial community. If you don't have those cover crops growing, you're missing the #1 fertility engine, you know? So get your cover crops in.
You had cover crops out here. Did you mow them all down?
We mowed them, and I really want to start rolling them, but the roller was intimidating people, so they mowed them. But we're going to start rolling them, you know?
Because it looked like it was working well.
Yeah, I know, believe me. I haven't been able to catch up. I've been really busy teaching classes and stuff. I haven't been able to catch up. They're mowing right ahead of me, you know? So there's a few spots left, and I'm hoping I get to catch up with them and say, please, let's roll these. We want to learn rolling superior, you know? People said, oh, we can't get in there, but then the sides came up, you make a ramp and you're in, you know? I wish we had rolled that. We didn't, but, well, it'll happen, you know?
I wondered.
Yeah, that's it. It's just lots of people doing things, communication, you know?
What are you rolling with?
We have a roller, I can show it to you. We bought one.
You pull behind a tractor?
And no, we have a walk-behind tractor. It cost us $900 to have it made, you know?
Oh, the roller?
Yeah.
So does it make you holes in the...
No, it just simply crimps the cover crop so it dies, and then you plant through it, you know? Yeah.